I want to talk about something that surprised me more than any spreadsheet ever has. When my timeline moved, the hardest part wasn't the money for me. It was what it did to how I see myself. Now, for a long time, I had a version of me in my head. Someone that was almost done. Someone who was getting close to the exit. Someone who could tolerate work because there was an end date. And without really noticing it, that identity became part of how I cope. And when my timeline shifted, that version of me disappeared. And I didn't understand or expect how unsettling that would be and how it would affect me. Because the uncomfortable truth is that we don't just plan retirement financially, we plan it psychologically. We quietly start loosening our grip on work long before we actually leave. We tell ourselves things like, I don't need to push so hard anymore. I just need to hold steady because I'm nearly there. So when nearly there suddenly becomes 4 or 5 years away, that breaks. Not in your finances, in your sense of self. You're no longer the person finishing strong, but you're also not the person building towards something new. You're stuck in between. Still working, still being responsible, but no longer emotionally invested in the story you were telling yourself. And I found that limbo exhausting. And I think a lot of people mistake that feeling, as I've said before, for burnout, when it's actually something else. It's more identity conflict. You're doing the same job, you're earning the same money, and you're living the same life. But the meaning you attach to that has changed. Work used to be something you endured because it was temporary. Now it suddenly feels permanent again. And then frustration creeps in. Not because the job suddenly got worse, but because the mental contract you had with yourself just got broken. What makes this harder is there's no external signal for the shift, because no one around you knows what's happening. On the outside, everything looks fine. Inside, you're quietly renegotiating who you actually are. Are you still on the way out? Or are you back to being in it? And that question matters, because if you don't answer it consciously, your mind answers it for you, and usually with resentment or detachment or constant low-level irritation. And I've had to face that head on. If I'm staying longer, I can't live mentally half retired for the next 4 years. That's not a plan. That's more of a slow grind. So the real work now isn't about saving harder or optimizing numbers. It's about redefining who I am while I'm still working. Not as someone waiting, not as someone trapped, but as someone choosing to stay for reasons that make sense to me. And that shift doesn't make the job easier, but it does kind of make it cleaner. Because there's a huge difference between staying because you have to and staying because you've consciously decided it serves the bigger picture for you. Now, if you're watching this and your timeline is shifted too, I don't think the question is, how do I cope with working longer? I think the real question is, who am I now that the plan has changed? Once you answer that, the rest becomes manageable.